Right, so getting back to that photograph of yourself, you were
Yes.
6 years old?
I was 5 years old,
Yeah.
and I was put into the last 2 months of grade 1 at the elementary school that I went to in Weston, Connecticut.
So this is now a new country, new language.
New country, new language, new father, new everything.
Yeah. And was that bringing up fears for you, all that newness?
It was, there were so many things that were so strange and so new. First, I was born into a high soul bourgeois European family, and I had a nurse and a nanny and for everything. So at the school, the teachers thought I was retarded. My mother was called in within a week. There's a problem with your son. He must be mentally deficient or retarded. Why? Well, he drops his pencil and he won't pick it up. And she was laughing, and she's like, he's a little prince. He's waiting for you to pick it up for him. He's not going to pick up a pencil. He's never done anything in his life.
It's beneath it.
Me pick up a pencil? Are you kidding?
That face says so much emotion.
I was surrounded by unhappy, unhealthy people. I was in a little cocoon. My great-grandparents and my grandparents created a beautiful little nest for me. And my mother, the day I came from the hospital, my mother handed me over to my grandmother and said, "You take care of him. I put up with him for the last 9 months." And I slept in a crib at the foot of the bed. And my grandfather was made fun of his entire life. It would always come up that when I was a little boy, and I was a brand new baby in a crib at the foot of their bed, that he would wake up in the middle of the night because I wasn't breathing. And then they'd come and check me. He'd wake up my grandmother. He's not breathing, the baby's not breathing. And they go look at me, and I was breathing. I later discovered that I had sleep apnea. I was sensitive to that. And part of that was because I was separated from my mother. Well, soon after, my mother didn't want to take care of me. She would hand me over to my grandparents.
It's making sense now.
And my grandmother was the closest person to me.
Yeah. So you had that separation from mother. You would have felt it as a baby.
I miss my grandmother more than I miss my father, and I never felt a connection with my mother. To this day, I have no connection with my mother. There's no emotional connection with my mother. I go see her, and she's just this woman I know my whole life.
Sure.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
We're kind, we're friendly, but if I never talk to her again, I never talk to her. There's no connection was ever made because she was so self-absorbed in her stories.
Yeah.
However, I do have to say, this is very important. She was absolutely brilliant in creating a healthy, natural space for me. She never interfered with my development.
Yeah.
She just fed me and kept me clean and clothed with good food and a nice, safe bed. Yeah. And the man that she remarried, my stepfather, was a very kind and gentle and brilliant man. I connected very closely to. I got a very nice bond. And he was a tremendous inspiration because he was in his 40s. In his 40s when I showed up as a 4-year-old child in his life.
Yeah.
And me being at the end of my 40s into my 50s when Nahu comes into my life and I see the impact that I have on her by just being a happy, healthy, relaxed man with a little girl that was lost because she doesn't have a connection with her mother and has never met her father. And she just grabs on. So he was a major anchoring point for me, was my stepfather.
And I can see that, especially with your dad. I've got 2 questions there. Like, with your mother not wanting to take care of you, you would have sensed that as a baby, right?
Oh, yes.
Even though she handed you to a very loving support system, which is your grandparents, you would have felt that separation and anxiety and that fear would have been imprinted somehow.
And it got imprinted. It was imprinted, and then with the separation of my divorce of my parents,
yeah.
And I got pulled out of that.
Before we get to that, you mentioned your dad was violent.
It was violent, yeah.
So you witnessed that growing up until you
Yes,
left?
I witnessed that growing up.
Violent with your mother or violent with you?
With everyone, including with me.
Right. So
I actually relived traumas where I was shaken as a 6-month-old child by my father.
Okay.
And this is, and I discovered this doing special work, medicine work, and special
because you
deep
wouldn't remember
regression.
that far back. Yeah.
No, but when I became awakened, I remembered every point in my life where I'd had an extreme experience that brings you to awakening. And I remember that too.
Wow. So that
relived that
physical violence you personally experienced from your dad, your mother experienced, you watched that growing up.
Yep.
You have the separation, the lack of connection, of love flow between you and your mother.
And
that sets up some serious voids inside.
It set up some serious voids, and the need for me to become independent, self-sufficient, take care of myself, figure it out for myself, because there's nobody else that can. I knew for a fact, okay, I understand this woman. She doesn't know. I have to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, by the time I was 15, I already told my family, "You guys have not figured anything out. You don't tell me what to do. I'm on my own. Don't even think about telling me what to do."
In hindsight, you can see the value. You can see how it drove
Oh, it
your-
saved my life. It saved my life.
It saved your life.
Yes, yes. There's no way I would be where I am now if I hadn't had
Agreed.
these separations, these poisons, these experiences were necessary components. So I'm grateful for them. So nothing I say comes, out of any anger or
No,
reproach.
you've done that
It was-
clearing.
I'm very clear of that. I'm very appreciative of that.
At the same time, I'm honouring what was going on for you emotionally to drive you to want to understand. Because the world looked scary, unsafe, confusing. You'd experienced violence, separation of love. That is frightening for a child.
I'd experienced sexual abuse. I'd experienced physical violence, separation of love as a
That's what I'm
child
getting
in the first 4 years of my life.
And so that would have driven some serious voids where I need to find ways to stay safe and to find love.
That's
And I need to figure this out for myself because my mother doesn't know. What was beautiful is that you were put into a loving cocoon with your grandparents and then eventually your stepfather. And then you had it was a smoother ride after that, correct?
Yes. Yes.
But the imprinting of the need to understand and figure out and recognize the patterns
Yes.
was driven out of the violence, the separation that would have imprinted the child and driven you to actually want to understand. That face tells me everything.
Yes.
about
That's why I
what's
keep
going
it.
for you,
That's why I keep it.
you know? So when I look at that, I'm going, it wasn't just curiosity, it was the necessity to find the answers.
Yes, I needed to survive.
Yeah.
It was a natural, instinctive drive to survive.
Yeah.
I'm here to live. I'm like any little seed. I'm a little sprout that's digging into the dirt as much with the rule and spreading its little. I gotta grow. And fortunately, it wasn't that damaging or intense of an environment. Otherwise, I know that this little sprout wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
And that's why I know I'm ordinary. I was a healthy seed that landed in just the right amount of toxins, and just the right amount of nutrients. And I'm aware of that because if I hadn't had the poisons, I wouldn't have the flavor. I wouldn't have the spice, right? If you don't add enough spice, enough chili into the food, it's missing something. I've discovered so much about myself with these medicines, and I go deep, deep down inside, and I realize that I can't find my heart. I don't know what love is. I've never experienced love ever in my life. I just don't know what it is. I'm honest enough to know that whatever I thought was love was not love.
Are we recording that? Beautiful.
I didn't know what
This
it
is the
was.
goal.
And this was in my mid-30s. This was by the time I'm 32 or 33. I realize that I've outlived Jesus and I can't find my heart. What's the point? And if I can't find it, I'm very clear, Tom, I'm very clear that I will search to find my heart. And if it turns out that I don't have one, that there's no such thing, I will end my life. Wow. I'm that clear.
And that's when you met John.
Unashamedly. No, I
No,
met
you
John
met him
10 years later. It took me 10 years to find that, to find my heart.
Did she help you find your heart?
No, the other girl that I met before,
Before.
she helped me find my fake heart.
Heart.
She helped me find the mental projection of love and desire and that I had created in my mind with all the stories that we have of love and happiness.
Beautiful.
On Christmas Day, at the end of my 42nd year, I did a special shamanic journey, and I regressed to the state that my heart was in the day I was born. And I relived being with an open heart the way I was born. And I learned that the heart has only two positions: fully open or fully closed. Nothing in between.
Can't be hot pregnant.
Nope. You're either fully open, fully loving, fully connected, fully vulnerable, or fully closed, ready to fight. There's no in between.
Tell me how much. So, did you actually help find your? Were you able to find your heart without Jantra?
Yes. I had to find it first. I would never have found Jantra otherwise, because Jantra is pure heart. She's pure heart. She's pure heart, and she knows it. And there's no. So I was pure mind until I found my heart. She was pure heart.
That's a great
until she
distinction.
found her mind.
So your journey of progression was you found awakening through
my mind. Yes.
And then in that process, you searched for your heart. Found
I
your
had
heart.
to find. You have to find your heart
And then then after that,
And
once
that
you found
completed
your
my
heart,
awakening.
you could actually find Jantra.
That's right. And
Cool.
and my battle, my journey to hell that I had was my heart opened, and I felt, and I knew, and I remembered, and I had a completion of my life from the day I was born up until that moment. That was 8 years ago. 8 years ago last Christmas. And I remembered what it was like to be alive and awake with my heart open the first day. And I felt the fears and insecurities that started with my mind the day I was born. And I slowly wanted to close and close and close my heart. And the struggle to fight against it and to close it, and the struggle. And it's the fight between the mind and the heart for control. And I recognized that, but I couldn't win. I couldn't get the hierarchy right, because the proper hierarchy is that the mind is here to serve the heart. The heart isn't here to serve the mind serves the heart serves the body is for the being. It's like the mind is the most far removed away from being. To jump from mind to heart is a quantum leap. I had to intellectually understand that my thoughts and feelings and hopes and desires and dreams and fantasies about love were false projections. That I could never understand and know love with my mind. And that it's not a tool for that. Just like my eyes will never hear the sounds or smell the smells or taste the flavors. It's not what it's for. It's for something else. And I had to drop and delete all the stories. And as soon as that happened, my heart stayed free. And that needed to happen. But the fight for control, the fear, because
Fear of what?
the vulnerability of having an open heart, because since birth, being hurt, being isolated, being cold, not feeling the warm heart, being abandoned emotionally. Physically, I was taken care of, but emotionally, and then my father physically, and then being pulled away from my grandmother, who was all heart for me. So much heart in my first ayahuasca journey. It was the spirit of my grandmother that said, "I'm still here." In my second ayahuasca journey, and my last one, it was the understanding that I need to discover all by myself what love is. Because everything that I've heard and I've learned, everything that I've seen so far is not love. And I remember the despair of how am I going to know what it is if I've never experienced it. At that moment, the shaman pulled me over and blew some smoke on me and just kind of dissolved away the fear. And I realized I'm just going to have to figure it out. I'm just going to have to trust. And that took me another 6-7 years to finally complete that journey. Once it was complete, I was clear. Heart open, like the windows are open on a bright sunny day, closed when the mosquitoes or the venomous snakes tried to come in, the heart's closed. And I can tell the difference. And I had to come to Thailand to learn that. Because Thai people, their entire operating system is based around the heart. If you ask a person, who are you? Where are you? They say, Jit Jai, the heart. I am the heart. I am here. I live here. I'm not in my head. It needs a head. I'm in my heart. And they know how to open their heart, and they know how to close their heart. As a matter of fact, Thai girls, the way they catch you is that they just completely surrender and open their heart to you, and you get a taste of being with somebody with a completely open heart. And then once you've had a nibble, they close it. Now you're theirs. Because you want it. You desire it. You need it. So immersing myself in the language and in the culture allowed me to learn that the heart is like a muscle that can open and close. But it has to be completely open or completely closed. And unconditional love means, something got lost in translation, that there's no thought that could create any conditions about what love is or what love is not. But the heart is an independent intelligence. It is not to be questioned or controlled or tampered or conditioned with by the mind. The heart is open to all people who are open-hearted. The heart is closed to all people who are closed-hearted. Until they open their heart. As soon as they open their heart, the heart's open. As soon as they close their heart, the heart's closed. As soon as dust comes into your eyes, you blink and move out of the way. As soon as it's free, you open your eyes again. Right? Does that make sense? This culture, because of their operating system of how they think about emotions and feelings, have mastered opening and closing their heart. They have an emotional intelligence that Western cultures do not have. The only way I can describe is I can describe a feeling. It's a feeling that when I allow myself to be present in front of another being, so I'm not mentating, I'm not thinking, I'm not intellectualizing, I'm not in a cognitive sense. I'm just simply present, there's no mind, I'm absolutely present. I will feel an opening and a relaxation and a warmth in my being if that person is also in that state. It's almost like you have mirror neurons that allow you to feel how other people are feeling, and you can feel if other people are in a state of anger or fear, or if they're just open-minded, open-hearted, relaxed. It's a relaxed feeling. And you can feel it with each heartbeat. If you're present and aware of yourself and your body, you can feel your heart as anyone who just sits quietly can, because it's there. It's always beating. You will feel within the beating, you will feel a constriction, a tightening that will just feel it with that person, or a relaxing. And when that tightening happens, I become alerted to it. And I don't resist it. And it's just, now the rain's coming, so we lower the rain shields. That's all. We're going through a dangerous neighborhood, so we lock the door in the car. We open the windows and we lock the door. That's all. How do you feel that? How do you know suddenly to go, right? Suddenly you put your hands near your pockets because you're in a crowded bus station. People are bumping up against you, and you feel that maybe somebody's going to. Your intuition tunes into it as well. Your intuition has to tune into your heart, to your emotions. So it's a feeling, it's a knowing through feeling, and not so much of a cognitive understanding. That gets translated into a clear message, which is stay alert, mind on, there's danger somewhere. So there's a switch that happens between being in, how to explain it? Have you ever had little turtles? Have you ever raised turtles or reptiles? There's these beautiful little, they're called painted turtles, Japanese little painted turtles. I had a bunch of them. And when you first get them, they're about this big. And you put them in your terrarium or aquarium, and if you go pick them up, they're pure flight. They run away. They reach to a certain size. They grow to a certain size, and like clockwork, all of them reach a certain size, and you go reach for them, and instead of running away, they go into pure fight mode. Because they're this big and they're harmless, so you just, come on, it's okay. And eventually they get used to the fact that they don't need to fear you or fight you, and they become completely relaxed. And if they see that you bring them food, they see you and they come running, and they're all happy and they almost wag their little tails at you. Because they learn that you're not dangerous, right? But their first reflex is flight. The second one is fight. Then they relax, and I'm not sure they have the capacity for love or caring, but they definitely can feel comfortable. Yeah. So I've watched children, and I've felt myself go through flight to fight, to not having to fight or flight, and relax into love. So you're in one of those modes. You're either in open-hearted, relaxed, everything's fine. You're open to everyone. Anyone can be a friend. Anyone can be an ally. I'm open to anyone. By default, I start open. So does John True. And then they'll show something. There'll be a sign that something has to be challenged. And it's important to understand. This is what I learned from this girl, Lee, is that you can be tricked into feeling that somebody loves you and they don't. You can be lied to. You can be tricked. So you have to be able to tell the difference. In gemology, one of the most important things I learned is that, let's say you look at a diamond or a ruby, right? And it's beautiful. It's perfect. It's flawless. Maybe it has some inclusions, but they're natural inclusions, and they're untreated. It's a raw, untreated gem that's been cut beautifully, and it's worth millions. So you look at it, and you look through your lens, your loupe, right? And a brilliant cut diamond has 53 facets. So you look at one facet, and it's perfect. It's worth millions. When you turn it, you look at the second facet, and it's perfect. It's untreated. It's natural. It's worth millions. You keep turning it, and you reach the 53rd facet, and somewhere between the first and the 53rd, should you encounter the tiniest sign that it's been treated in any way, that it's been tampered with, you drop it because it's simply worth nothing. And human beings can be approached the same way, because we all have our imperfections. We all have our fears. We all have our greeds. We all have our angers. We all have our cunning. You're familiar with The Lord of the Rings, with the Tolkien-esque story? A brilliant story of a man who goes deep into his mind and pulls out all the archetypes and creates a story based on everything that's in his mind. We are each and every character. We have each and every personality and character in The Lord of the Rings. We've got the White Wizard, we've got the Dark Lord, we have the Golem. We have the brave, we have the humble, right? Every element is there. And this is natural and normal. Everybody has it. That's why it's important to know people's monsters. What you have to tune your intuition and your feeling and your intelligence and your emotions to is to people who are false or fake, who pretend to be something they are not, who pretend to be loving when they're actually hating. Because there's nothing wrong with hating. If you hate authentically, unapologetically something that's hateful, why not? Just hate it. I hate this. I just hate it. I'm okay with it. Doesn't mean I have to hurt anyone. I can hate and I can love. I can attract and I can repel. So there's a way of, you can, when you listen to yourself, you take the time to really know yourself and explore yourself, you will know that your heart cannot be fooled, but your mind can. And the highest value of the mind is to be an instrument of doubt. Because the heart will trust. But if the heart decides to close, you don't interfere with the closing of a heart. The heart has its own intelligence. So as it's closing or it's about to close, there is a constriction. There's a tendency of, now we're going to close. Now we're going to change gears. We're going to go from fight to flight mode. And you can see it. I remember coming around the corner one morning to make myself a cup of coffee, and there was a giant venomous snake, 2-meter-long snake, coiled up on the table right next to the coffee maker. And I walked right up to it, and it was like just striking distance away from me. And I had the chance to hide into the pantry, the little cabinet that's back there, and I thought this could be a horrible mess. So I just sat watching it. I stayed fully present, fully alert, watching it. And I said to Jantra, bring me a knife. Bring me a knife. She brought me a big kitchen knife. So, still keeping a clear eye on it, I took the knife in my hand. I balanced it. I prepared myself, and I'm just watching. The snake's watching me, and I'm watching it. And suddenly I had two images flash in my eyes. The first image was of the snake attacking me, followed by an instant image of the snake running away from me, followed by the snake moving in my hand, swooping out and cutting its head off with the knife in one swipe. It projected both images. Now, the entire time I'm standing in front of a 2-meter-long, deadly venomous viper within striking region. There is no heart. The heart is completely closed. There's no energy towards anything except I'm present, I'm clear, and we're going to figure this out, and you're going to make the first move, and I'm in the zone, and I've got a knife. I did nothing. It happened by itself. The snake projected the information first because the body shares all thoughts. It's like there's...
So what happened?
The snake's head came off. It moved a centimeter and I'd already cut its head off. I hit it 1 centimeter past where its head came off in one swipe. But I'd never done anything like that before.
So you saw it happening before it happened?
It flashed both options. It thought about fight or flight, and it chose flight. Because the angle of the cut was such that it was trying to run away. It wasn't trying to attack. But I was ready for it either way. And it moved in a centimeter, and it was already hit. Because the body was just in full, present, no distractions. I'm not sending love to it. I'm not sending hate to it. I'm not doing anything. I'm just present. What are you going to do next? If it just stayed there, then I would have just stayed there. If it just relaxed and curled up, I would have picked it up and moved it. But it chose to take action. I get these same feelings with people. John gets these same feelings with people. Because she's been hurt, when we go over her story, you'll see the ways that she's been hurt. She is sensitive to the poisons and the dangers of people who have a predisposition to this. Why do they have a predisposition? Why do they have a disposition to this? Because they were touched by someone else who gave it to them. Does that make sense? They were born innocent, but they got that virus. They're always passing it on. It's always like a flu. You understand that? When you look deep into your pains, into your horrors, into your fears, into your pain, into your traumas, you realize that nobody has done anything to you that wasn't done to them in some manner. They're just passing it on. And really, can you blame your child or your partner for picking up a flu virus and giving it to you? Like, what can you do? Right? It just gets passed on, and you just, of course, isolate yourself and let it go past. So we carry all of this with us. Each person is carrying a bag of poisons, of toxins, of mental viruses, of anger, of jealousy, of hatred, of violence. And we can be sensitive to it, but for that we have to be our hearts are sensitive to it, but our minds can be tricked. So you can tune into this higher intelligence, the emotional intelligence. It's much higher than the psychological intelligence when it comes to feeling your way around other people. So Jantra and I have a sign language, a code, a tap language. Just we can share thoughts of if any one of us picks up that someone is in any way dangerous to us or to our child or to our home, we communicate it silently and invisibly, and then we both work like a team, and we disengage ourselves gracefully, gently, effectively, right? You are not the droid we're looking for. We're not going to, we've just entered a pit of, a den of vipers, so we're going to, it's like my mistake. I'm just going to go this way now. If they attack, it's different. As long as they don't attack, we just step away and say, okay, thank you, go your way. We're not going to work with you. We typically, unless our intuition is very, very clear, we have another reference point. We don't invite people to come stay in our house unless we've met them first. Yeah. You understand that, right? Because imagine it's not working out and you're not getting it and they're being angry. I'd have to put you out. I have to kick you out. And I'd have to say, you know what? My mistake. Fuck me. Keep the money. Just get out of my life before I kick your ass. Right? What can I do, right? Because I made the mistake. But we can feel it.
I like what you said. It's that reference point.
You need a reference. You need reference points. So you also learn how to calibrate your radar to other people and to people that can be potential reference points. Because it's there. We are herd animals and we have mirror neurons and we can feel these things. Another example is you clear yourself of all your trapped and past emotions, fears, anger, stress, anxiety, whatever. Even your happiness, you let it go. Who cares? It happened. You were happy yesterday because somebody gave you a prize and so on. Now you're clear. There's nothing happening. You're like a pool. It's perfectly calm, deep but calm. Now you're out in public somewhere and you begin to feel anger or fear or stress or anxiety. Has that ever happened to you? Yeah. You look inward. Am I the source of this anger, fear, stress, or anxiety? Nope. Everything's fine on the inside. It must be coming from the outside. You're angry. You're scared. Why is this person scared? Why are they angry? Oh, around the corner, something else is happening. Right? Just like there's a flock of birds and they're all hanging out, and you scare one and it startles, and then they all fly off. Our mirror neurons are so amazingly fine-tuned that we can sense from very far away. And there's a reason for this. If you look at the neural net, the nerve neural net, nerve endings of an earthworm, it's very simple. If you look at a fish, it's more complicated. If you look at a reptile, it's even more complicated. When reptiles and reptile-like ancestors evolved into mammals, more nerve endings had to develop and grow in greater complexity because not only do we go from being cold-blooded to warm-blooded, but we drop scales and plates and armor and we grow fur. And this increases our capacity, our complexity. Physically, emotionally, psychologically, everything gets more complex. It's a mind-body thing. When we go from being primates to hominids, and we lose our fur, our fangs, and our claws, think about it. Of all the animals that are our size, now you're a little bigger than most of us, but anyone, our size, right? From Nampu to you, so to speak, or Tony, who's big. How many mammals our size have skin this soft, nails this weak, teeth these useless? Yeah. A pig? You think a pig would be upset if you bit it or scratched it? How about a squirrel? You think you can scratch a squirrel to death or bite it to death? It'll hurt you terrible. Yeah, it's tougher than we are. So how is it that we humans have been able to make it thin skin? Yeah, make it for millions of years before we invented nuclear bombs that we can throw at each other or pretend to. It's our sensitivity. We have a capacity to sense danger from far, far, far away. Very far.
Further than animals.
Much further than, yeah. Because one thing is to, especially women, one thing is to be a strong man that can carry a stick or a rock.
They can blind you.
That's right. And you run into a tiger.
Yeah.
So maybe you fight off the tiger, maybe you win, maybe not. But if you're a woman, a pregnant woman, a woman with a child, you have to sense it from far away and move out of the way before it finds you. And that's where your intuition comes in. That's where your sense, that's where the intelligence of your skin, your fascia, your body, there's so many layers of intelligence that you have access to. And in order for that to be there, your heart can't be open and loving, because your heart can be open and loving to a puppy, but not to a hungry tiger.
So is intuition a function of the mind?
Of the entire mind, body-mind thing.
Wow.
It's the holistic intelligence of the entire being.
It uses
everything.
Both. And does so.
But it has to recognize the patterns.
Yeah.
Because we were sitting here, right here, one day, and I'm reading the beautiful Osho book, and Jantra is reading her beautiful Osho book, and it's a beautiful day like today, and we've had a beautiful lunch, and we're completely relaxed. We had a hammock here, and she's sitting on a cushion here, and so I'm just getting nervous and fidgety, and something's wrong. I can feel her, so I notice her, and she's fidgety and wrong. I look around, no danger. Go back to reading my book. No danger. I don't sense anything. Keep reading my book. I'm aware, but I'm still doing my thing. She gets up and she goes and she takes a shower. The reason she takes a shower is because she wants to clear her skin, which is the outer layer of her brain. She knows that by taking a refreshing shower, that she clears her mind, body, and she comes back fresh for whatever comes next. Right? Because you just ate, so you brush your teeth, you wash yourself, you come back, you're fresh. And she sits down, and now she wants to see how she feels. She's aware of the fact that she's feeling uncomfortable and she doesn't know why. She can't find a reason. There's nothing internal, no immediate external out. She sits and she starts to get nervous. And after she washes, she comes back, she goes, snake. There's a snake. Snake where? She goes, snake. There, there's a snake right there. I'm like, there's no snake there, Jantra, that's just a branch. There's a snake, I know, I can feel it. I'm really close to it, I'm closer to it, I'm right there, and she's over here. And I was like, she calls one of her Burmese staff. They come down. Snake. I'm like, what snake? What's wrong with you people? You guys are crazy. There's no snake there. 8-foot king cobra. Wow. 8-foot king cobra. So, she's terrified. He's terrified. I don't know anything about king cobras. I'm not terrified. I'm just like, okay, let me see. The old owner had a snake catching stick somewhere. It's a 1-inch PVC, 4-meter long, 1-inch PVC with a rope that's tied on one end, so there's a loop. Maybe I can push it away or try to catch it.
Longer than 1 inch.
Oh no, 4 meter long, 1 inch
meter long.
wide,
Oh, sorry, good.
with a rope, right?
4 meter long.
4 meter long, right? So I figure I never used this before. I'm gonna go see what might be there.